I'm David Graham, also known as Farmer Dave from a couple of TV shows, including Australian Story. Tonight's program is about a woman who's changing the culture in the bush when it comes to alcohol, and she's certainly changed my attitude. Shanna Wan first featured on Australian Story 3 years ago when her project was in its early days. Now she's getting recognition at the highest levels.
I'd now like to invite the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, to announce Australia's local hero for 2022.
When Tim and I walked down the red carpet to the finals of the Australian of the Year, I felt like my entire body was just on fire with energy and anticipation and awe.
Australia's local hero for 2022 is Shanna Wan.
When Shan's name got called out, I just lost it. It was a sense of validation that all the years that we'd put in, you know, to get to that point, it had all sort of come home to roost, I suppose.
And to see the emotion in his face, you know, I think it was a lifetime of pain for him with me had been released. Because during the worst of my addiction, when I was at my worst, like, I was not a good person to be around. And rural people are worth fighting for because they get up and they show up in fire and flood and droughts.
I had a strong faith that if we still stuck together and saw it through, that there was something special at the other end.
This is dedicated to every single one of you choosing bush sunrises over hangovers. And most of all, it's dedicated to the man who made me believe I was worth fighting for. I love you, Timbo. Thank you.
Would you please put your hands together for Australia's local hero, Shanna Wan.
Is this just going to be a massive weekend?
Shanna has been working for the last 8 years to change the culture in the bush. Most of our events are centred around alcohol, and we've seen, you know, alcohol involved in so many damaging areas of our life in the bush. Her organisation, Sober in the Country, has been a driving force for change.
Racing and 61 kilometres away fairly.
So something I'm always at great pains to point out with Sober in the Country is that we do not demonise drinking. We do not give a hard time to our mates who are enjoying a beer. It's literally the antithesis of what this conversation is about. All we're doing is just making it socially acceptable when our mates might say no thanks or not today to grog.
There are a lot of people that struggle with alcohol addiction in regional, rural and remote areas where there's not a lot of services and not a lot of support.
So, how many days off do you have to recover?
What's unique about Shanna, though, is that she is very, very open about her personal struggles.
She's come a long way. It's a stark contrast from a drunken, blibbering mess, not being able to put two words together, to stand with a microphone in front of hundreds of people.
Let's grab a Great Northern. Have you got any soda water there? Hey, sweetie, they didn't have any soda water.
Surprise, surprise. Thank you, my darling.
No worries.
Something I get asked again and again from people is, so Shanna, how did a girl with all of the love and family support and positive upbringing and potential and opportunity go off track so much? How'd that happen? So I grew up in northwestern New South Wales. Home for me was on a property about an hour and a half from Moree. I was just very, very happy free-range country kid, just belting around the paddocks, bareback on my horse. When I was 11, I went off to boarding school in Toowoomba. It was a real shock to my system. I didn't cope well at all. I was terribly homesick.
She just didn't fit. She just didn't have a sense of confidence. She was a shy kid. Boarding school had a lot of constraints, formal things that we had to abide by, and that was very difficult for Shan.
By the time boarding school finished, I was really feeling caged in and rebellious, and I jacked up and said, no way, I am not going from one institution to another. I'm taking a year off. So I spent the next few years after that basically just moving around Australia quite a lot, working on stations, working with horses, working with stock. So I was extremely naive, I was extremely young, and I was a pretty little thing, off to adventure. Hello, my darling. So then some unfortunate, rotten things happened to me as a young girl. Within the space of 1 year, I lost my virginity to date rape, to somebody that I trusted and cared about, and then someone else in a position of authority on a remote property that I also trusted and sort of looked up to then also behaved extremely inappropriately on a number of occasions. And within the space of 1 year, I'd been sexually assaulted 4 separate times. And so I kind of didn't speak up and didn't say anything about it because I felt that age-old classic, I must have done something to deserve that. And you've got to remember, there was no internet, no mobile phones, nothing like that. I didn't even have a vehicle. So I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere, isolated.
She had a quietness about her. I didn't know what was going on, but I had a sense that there was something big had happened into her life.
The truth is, those things completely altered the trajectory of my life. I had been discarded like a piece of trash and treated like a piece of trash. And the impact of that on my psychology and self-worth was just extraordinary. And I hid behind alcohol. The alcohol kind of masked the pain, or it gave me courage in a social situation. I developed this alter ego of a really wild party girl. But in underneath all that, I was bloody shit scared of everything.
Initially, it was very funny. She was pretty cool. She was the central larrikin. And then it progressed to not being so. It progressed to being an absolute mess, an absolute nightmare for Shan and for those around her that loved her so much.
I was never someone who could go and behave myself. I was one of those people where 1 was too many and 1,000 was not enough. I went on to work in agriculture. All through my 20s and 30s, no matter what I was doing, the common thread throughout every single country town that I lived in, or every remote area, was that we all came together over alcohol. It's how you met people, and it's how you fitted in, and it's how you did work, and it's how you did deals. Not once did it occur to me that I might be an alcoholic. I thought alcoholics had to be a homeless person who drank all day and drank every day, or drank during the day, and I was none of that. So Tim came into my life in my early 30s, and it was an extremely dysfunctional, rocky beginning, let me tell you, because he saw very quickly that I was not okay. Righto, Timbo, which way is our beautiful veranda? Is this our veranda door? Yes.
I reckon just face towards the fire there a bit. She was the one that was still up at the end of the night and drinking on, you know, and partying on when, you know, most people had had enough. I guess I didn't know if she was an alcoholic as such, but I knew there was a big issue there, at the very least. You know, it wasn't normal.
How many litres of dust do you reckon we've carried? And I was going, come back here. You're a great guy. You should marry me. And he's like, I don't think so. Do you remember?
Yeah, no, I remember. The easy thing to do would have been to walk away. And that's sort of what I wanted to do at times, but I knew that there was someone inside Shan that was worth fighting for.
She admired Tim. He was a good old solid country bloke. He was quiet and easygoing.
We got fresh water from here.
And he really did help her. It helped her in giving her a solid foundation for a while.
Oh, God, he's beautiful. You are a little bit ridiculously cute. I had become a high-functioning alcoholic who was extraordinary by day and literally falling apart in increments by night.
Her binge drinking was escalating. Just 1 glass, 2 glasses, then they turned into bottles. 1, 2, 3, 4 bottles of wine.
I then started to feel quite embarrassed about buying 2 bottles of wine every night, you know. So I started rotating bottle shops in my local towns thinking, well, I don't want these people to think I'm an alcoholic, because I'm not. Thanks, darling. Have a good weekend. See ya. Bye.
Wasn't a pretty sight when I'd come home. If she'd drunk, you know, two bottles of wine, she'd be often lying on the floor. Whatever alcohol was left, I'd tip down the sink, and you know, we were just doing that. That was happening consistently, you know, week after week after week for a number of years. So that obviously took its toll. I knew that Shan needed help, but I had really no idea how to help her. I tried absolutely everything that I could think of. I asked myself the question every day, why the hell would you want to drink like this every day and do this to yourself?
And then the final straw for Shan was the news that her and Timbo weren't able to become parents, and Shan a mum. Her whole dream was to become a mum.
And that was a really convenient excuse in a way too for her to drink more. On my side of things, I'm over here going, well, you know, here you are drinking more, and we're trying to get pregnant, and you're making that problem worse for yourself. And that was extremely frustrating for me too.
And in the very lowest of the low moments, I would say to him, you know what, I actually think you should leave. I actually think you should leave me. I think you should bugger off and go find yourself a nice, healthy, lovely, normal woman to be married to, because what the hell have I got here for you? You know, like I can't pull myself out of this. When Tim and I first hooked up, right, this is what he expected.
When I make a commitment, it's forever. Like, it's not, I didn't take that lightly at all. So I guess I made the call that I had to take it upon my own shoulders to fix the problem.
You be somebody else.
My rock bottom was Boxing Day in 2014. Everything's very much about children, as it should be at Christmas. When you are minus children, the pain of it is extremely, extremely acute at that time of year. I remember I was white knuckling, which is what they call it when you want to drink but you don't. And I just got up, proud. I walked straight past everyone. I was like a zombie. And I got in my car and went to the bottle shop and I went, make it 3 bottles, thanks. And I think in that moment I was kind of hoping maybe I could take my own life. I'd thought about it so many times.
Yeah, walked in our house to find Shan on the floor with a big cut, passed out, big cut above her eye. She was at the bottom of a flight of stairs at home. I had to rush her to hospital and yeah, that was pretty tough going.
I woke up and there was Tim looking at me.
At that point, I was certainly almost ready to give up, I would say.
Seeing that he had reached his limit, that finally, I don't know, just got through to that part of my brain where I went, okay, this is going to end. I am going to die, like soon, very, very soon, and I have to do something and I have to do it now. That afternoon, I picked up a phone and I rang a national number for AA. And I arranged to drive to Tamworth to meet this lady. Her name was Ali. Ali. Yeah. Hello, beautiful.
Shan was nervous that day. I could hear this just sheer desperation, like it was life or death for Shan.
And that was a hugely pivotal moment.
She needed a way out. And I told her there was a way out of this dark hole. I'd been there.
I was a drunk through and through though. I was a full-on alcoholic.
I struggled with alcoholism from the age of 13 to 34 before I overcame it.
It was just a game changer for Shen to see that this person was someone similar to her, but also a huge realisation that an alcoholic didn't have to be that guy in the gutter with the brown paper bag.
Once upon a time, a conversation saved my life. That's why.
I said, well, this is what we do. There's a program. There are steps. There's action. There are things you have to do. There are things you can't do. This doesn't just happen overnight.
I just stood and I looked it in the eye and I said, this is what it is. And no more. No more. I need to fight now. Yes, I did the work. Yes, I worked my guts out, but there was divine intervention.
That was the end of it. It just, it just stopped and she hasn't had a drink since.
With me, I had an almost overnight miracle transition from crazy Shanna to no more. And that's not a common story. And I will tell anybody any day of the week, what happened with me was very much a miracle. Here is to sober life and sober friends, which are pretty much now all my friends.
Yeah, she did a bit more.
After a complete year of sobriety, I recall a little inkling of an idea forming in the back of my mind that one day I would do something very significant with the miracle that I had been given. Remember that? Yeah. Remember when we were like young?
Oh, yeah.
I made a very conscious decision that I would basically take my own very painful and private story and open it for public dissection and throw myself under the bus as a way of helping others to feel less frightened to step up and ask for help and acknowledge that they weren't okay either. So really it all just began as one girl in the middle of the outback with a laptop. So I just started sharing snippets of my own story. Really raw, really authentic, no fluff, just this is how it's been, this is how it was. Maybe this will resonate with someone out there. Thinking about the seriousness of that isolation for someone who's battling addiction or any illness for that matter. I called it Sober in the Country. A bit of a spin-off on Sex in the City. It was a bit of a daggy dig at that program. And the recurring theme I kept getting was, how you speak makes sense to me. Nothing's ever actually made sense to me before in this space. Can you keep telling us more? I was a bit nervous. I put a call out saying, guys, I'd like to start blogging and sharing your stories because I know there's not just me. And so suddenly support started coming in this little trickle. And then the next thing they would often say is, I never comment because I'm far too scared to comment on your page because what would people think? It took me 6 months until the light bulb went off and I thought, you silly bugger, what you need to do is create a private offshoot of this page so that people can speak without fear of judgment. So the rules on entry are this is strictly confidential. I treat that group as my family and I protect them fiercely. Within 6 months, I had 200 people. There were so many people in this fight and we're like, yeah, welcome to the madhouse, come on in. And suddenly these people who have just felt so alone and so isolated are finding their family.
I'm just speaking the truth and I'm opening and breaking wide open a topic that has historically been so very, very taboo.
I was actually driving home from a job. I'm managing corporate farms and I was listening to the radio and I heard Shanna do a brief interview and it touched a nerve with me.
Not because my story is everywhere and that is the reason it resonates so far and so wide.
I wrote down a name and when I got home that afternoon I made contact with her. It was a huge turning point in my life. I realised that I was an alcoholic. It was a very humbling experience to realise that something else had control of your life and was taking you probably to places that you wouldn't normally go. And I had a look at the Sober in the Country Facebook site. It was a relief. It was joining in to a community that could be of help. There were similar stories. And then after a while, I actually told my whole story to that group. Some pretty dark days there for me. I think I got the first reaction to what I'd written within 3 minutes. I actually found in telling the story that it made me feel a whole lot better. For me personally, my choice will to be never to drink again. It's given me strength. I have a little saying that for me today, the mountains aren't quite so high and the valleys aren't so deep.
I'm on my way to Canberra today, and it's interesting to see how many doors winning this award has opened for me, carrying this essential message and work into places I never imagined I'd be able to go. I really need our government to listen, to hear, to act and ensure we create sustainable, actionable change. It has been really difficult to see how resistant to change our very own leaders are. But it goes to show the power alcohol has over leadership in this country. Big alcohol is a big funder of everything from sports sponsorship to political donations. So now I'm going to go speak to the people right in charge and we'll have a crack at that.
People like Shanna really epitomise what Australians expect from a local hero. Somebody who is just going to go hard, follow their passions, not let anything stand in their way.
And I'm about to go in and have a meeting with the Secretary for Home Affairs. And we're hoping to just get some traction on moving from conversations to actionable plans, and fingers crossed they might be able to help us achieve that.
Hello, Secretary Pizzolo. Shall we?
Shall we? Come through.
It still feels weird doing that.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, the Department of Home Affairs is very proud every year to support the local hero, who is announced every Australia Day. One of the things that we focus on is social cohesion, the cohesion of our communities in all of their respects. And let's face it, alcohol is a really important part of Australian society historically, but it's got its downsides, very significant downsides, and no more so than in isolated communities.
And we've proven the need, we've proven the want. But what we need now is the next steps. So we are seeking government funding to basically ensure people can get telehealth detoxes at home, to ensure they can get support and to ensure that they can get well. And it's currently very difficult for people to do that, but we know how to make it easier.
I think that it's very worthwhile that telehealth or any of those sorts of programs actually should be able to support Shanna's work. I think at the moment it's extraordinary that Shanna hasn't been able to find some good government programs to support what she does.
During our meeting with Secretary Mike Pizzolo, we've just said we really need some help and we would very much appreciate some help. So we are talking about potential funding.
So working with someone who's so passionate about defeating this scourge with practical on-the-ground remedies is something that we're really passionate about too.
Hi! I've been hunting you guys down. Hello, beautiful.
Lovely to see you.
Are we even allowed to hug?
Legend.
Oh.
My next stop is at the National Farmers Federation conference.
I am exhausted but well. I finally made it here for our session.
Shanna Won is CEO of Sober in the Country and recently was announced Local Hero for 2022 at the Australia of the Year Awards.
The root cause of so much of what's going on with health in our communities is always coming back to alcohol. It is always coming back to alcohol. It breaks my heart because no one other than Sober in the Country is tackling that truth front on.
So when I heard that Shanna Won had been appointed as Australia's local hero, I just about climbed through the television. She's almost single-handedly putting the health and safety of rural men and women on the agenda, and the change that she's making is absolutely tremendous.
And I've got about 400 people that come and work in the bush for us. Many of them every year are young kids straight out of school, and looking after them is really key. And Shanna's message around that for me is really, really important.
Her biggest limitation is that It's only one person, pretty much. Other than her husband, Tim, Shanna has pretty much done it on her own.
The last time we had a big gathering at Maules Creek was for Timmy and my wedding, and it was not sober. You can tell I didn't go to finishing school. In the early days of me choosing to be sober, I found it really lonely and really, really difficult. Can I welcome you with a non-alcoholic beverage? Because suddenly I have the most extraordinary, remarkable, close-knit group of friends I ever dreamed of having, and they've all come into my life through their choice to drink less or to drink not at all.
Oh, God. Oh, it's real.
It's like I have found my tribe. And that's actually why we decided to call our peer group the Bush Tribe.
Not every day you get to meet the person who changed your life. Oh, Danielle.
Today I am meeting with some of our Bush Tribe for the first time in real life. I've been speaking with online for several years over the pandemic and we've never met.
Matthew Tonkin. Hello. I'm so excited.
One of the people coming along today is Maddie Tonkin, who heard me on the radio many, many years ago.
Oh, don't look at me like that. I'll start crying.
He's really come a long way.
Beautiful friend. Oh, thank you for making this trip. Oh.
I've got a new job in regenerative agriculture, and I've also been able to regenerate myself physically and mentally. I'm much healthier. Good. I've got a new relationship in my life. I've repaired relationships within my family. We all probably wanted to do something but didn't know how we wanted to do it. And sometimes someone comes along that shines a light to lead you on a path, that lets you put things together. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be doing. Thank you.
Love you, Maddie. Love you.
This is my comfort zone. You people are my comfort zone. The Bush Tribe is my comfort zone. Shanna, you are my friend for life. You all are my friends for life.
There's not anything special about me. I'm not the first person to get sober. You're just your raw, true self.
I thank her for being Shanna and for being brave enough to do the work that she does. And I'm trying to do that same thing for other people. So we're trying to pay forward.
So your preferred is this kind of a hardy little nuggety nug-nug?
I think there is a downside to the whole thing. It obviously adds a new level of stress and a new level of expectation. She's got 2 speeds. That's, flat out or zero, and she's got to balance it out.
She's as pretty as a picture. I know that much.
I think it must be incredibly confronting for Shanna sometimes to have to relive her personal journey over and over.
Oh, how did she go when you rode her yesterday?
I hope in her quest to get the word of alcohol abuse out there doesn't jeopardise her health ever again. Because sometimes you can get too snowed down with other people's problems and it affects you personally again.
You go ahead, Toddy. I'll go behind you. When you're a hard-wired empath, like I am, you can feel like you're drowning too in the enormity of this need. And I've had to learn to be so careful about boundaries and limitations and lines in the sand, because if I'm not careful, it'll pull me under. We now actually have the ultimate perfect escape and respite from all of that public pressure and stress. And it's in the form of a little chapel in the bush in the middle of nowhere. And it's not just any chapel, it's part of my husband's family history.
Shannon and I live in a little church that was built by my great-grandfather, and then Dad made a bit of a cottage out of it. It is definitely a sanctuary. It's been such a long struggle that we've had, and even since Shannon's been sober, it's been hard. But it's slowly sort of starting to turn, I think.
I've got my horses, I've got my dogs, I've got my good husband by my side, I've got sunrise, I've got peace. I honestly feel like the luckiest person in the world. I had a second chance. And I'll keep doing whatever I can with whatever I've got for as long as I live. I know that with no shadow of a doubt. And I just want to say that I think everyone in the whole world should have a Bluey. This is therapy dog. This is how she cuddles. See that? Are you right? You right? This is my therapy dog, free. You can't get to a therapist in the bush, but you can have a Bluey. Hi, Elsie. Go on, off with you. She's pretty cute, eh?
To explore a healthy relationship with alcohol, visit hellosundaymorning.org and soberinthecountry.org. If you need more immediate help, call Lifeline on 13 11 14.